Hello, my name is Tom Billigan. I'm the training manager for Briggs Stratton's Customer Education Department. Today we're going to take a look at what it goes into doing a tune-up on an older Intac V-twin engine here, focused in this riding lawnmower application. So we're going to focus on covering the air filter replacement, spark plugs, oil change and oil filter change as well, and a little bit about a fuel discussion. Before performing any work, remove the spark plug wire from each of the spark plugs to prevent accidental starting. Always refer to the operator's manual before performing any procedures. So we'll begin with the air filter replacement first. Okay, so to remove the air cleaner, there is a cover that goes over top of the air cleaner. It is retained by 2 thumb screws here. Some versions will also have a 4 thumb screw application, so there'll be 2 more located right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these. These screws are captured by the air cleaner. You don't have to worry about losing them. All right, so this hinges up and off. I'll just pull it forward and now it's off. Below that is the air filter itself. So this just pulls straight up and out, and below it, of course, you can see this is where the actual filter media is that's blocking the debris entering the engine in this area here, okay? Now, below that, your engine may be equipped with what we call a foam pre-cleaner. So this is a device that keeps all the big grass chunks and chaff out of the air cleaner itself, so it prolongs its life. Now, when you go to get your air filter, you need to pay attention whether you have this or not. Otherwise, your dealership would be able to look this up for you via the engine model type and code number and get you the correct one. So what we're going to do here is put in a new air filter. Now, we have an exact replacement air filter here for this unit. Our air pre-cleaner is in good shape, so we're going to reuse that. And then we're going to install our new air filter, taking care to make sure that the racetrack rubber seal here is all fully seated in. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that we hinge our front cover first here in the locking tabs, rotate it down, and then go ahead and run the thumb screws in until they're secure. And that takes care of air filter replacement. Next thing we need to do is remove the spark plug. Now this engine uses an RC12YC type spark plug, so it has a 5/8 inch socket hex. So we need to use a special 5/8 inch spark plug socket that is deep well. And these are unique because they have a rubber insert in it to keep you from cracking the very fragile porcelain spark plug. So we'll just go ahead, place this in here until you feel it lock onto the hex. And then you're going to go ahead and turn this counterclockwise to loosen it and thread it all the way out. It may take a few turns because the threads are fairly long on this spark plug, but once it's out, we now have it easy access. So now we'll remove it, and the next thing we need to do is locate our new replacement spark plug and install it. But before we install it, we need to check the spark plug gap. Now this engine calls out for the 30 thousandths inch gap. So I'm going to use a spark plug gapping tool, and I'm going to go ahead and measure the gap of it right out of the box, and it is spot on at 30 thousandths. So that's excellent. So I'm going to go ahead, install this, taking care to ensure that the threads are started, you're not cross-threading it. And we're going to go ahead and run it in by hand until you feel it bottom. Now it's critical that you torque a new spark plug because there is a crush washer there that needs to be sealed properly, and it only can be done by a proper torque amount. So we're going to use a beam style torque wrench here, and I'm going to target 180 inch-pounds of torque, and it may take you a couple revolutions here to get it. Okay, there we are. After you're done, you reinstall the high tension lead, move around to the other side and change your other spark plug in the same exact fashion, and that element is done. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here, we're going to go ahead and change the oil in the engine, is we're going to remove the dipstick. So that is located here, the yellow knob. Turn it counterclockwise a quarter turn, and then lift it out. I always get in the habit of wiping the dipstick off. That way you are starting over with a clean measuring point, and of course you don't get any oil residue on the equipment when you set this down. This also allows atmospheric pressure in to help the oil drain easier. Other than air getting in through the breather system, this will facilitate draining it much faster. Now, the next thing you need to do is locate the drain plug for the engine. Now, typically on our V-twin engines, you could be located on either side of the sump. Down here, there is a 7/16 square head plug that you would remove to drain the oil. Now, some of our newer engines will actually have an extended drain pipe coming out of here, or it will actually have a hose that wraps up around the side of the engine with a quarter turn quick coupling that will allow you to drain the oil very easily into a pan. So the other alternative is you can use an oil evacuation pump that we offer. And what this allows you to do is take a lot of the mess out of it. So this tube simply goes down inside the dipstick tube till it bottoms out, and then you start pumping oil out of this crankcase. And of course, until you get no more oil coming out of the sump here, you're in pretty much good shape here. You'll be able to then go the other direction and start refilling with oil at that point. Okay, so the next step here is we've got to swap out the oil filter here. So this can be a little bit of a messy procedure here depending on the frame design of the machine. So what you want to do is take a drain pan and locate that directly under the oil filter. So I'm going to pull that under here. And now I'm pretty well close to capturing any oil that's going to leak out of there. So the next thing we need to do is get the filter off. Now these are put on pretty tight so they don't leak. So you're going to have to use some sort of special tool here. They make socket adapters that actually fit the circumference and all the little perforations here in the filter, or you can use this claw type oil filter wrench, which I'm going to use here, which you just squeeze and it works like a pair of pliers. Okay, so once you get the oil filter loosened, and keep in regards that it may be fairly tight, so once it's loose, we're going to go ahead and thread it off of here. Now be prepared because there will be some oil that leaks, and of course keep the oil filter upright and then put it into your drain pan. Now you're going to want to take an opportunity here to wipe up the residual oil that has got on the frame so it's not coating anything else, and of course you're going to want to wipe the seal surface down of any debris or old oil. Okay, so that's the shiny machine surface here where the oil filter seats against. Now I'm going to install a better oil filter here. It's an extended life oil filter. I can get longer service life out of this filter that way. So first thing I need to do is take a little bit of my oil from my oil bottle here, and I need to coat my O-ring with a film of oil. This will allow the O-ring to not distort or tear when you go to tighten it down, and of course will make it easier to remove later on. So we'll go ahead and we'll thread this on. And you're going to want to snug this filter up fairly tight here, just so that it doesn't leak or fall off on you. And that completes the oil filter change. Okay, so now that we have the oil drained from the engine, we have the oil filter changed, it's now time to refill the engine with fresh, clean oil. So there are a couple decisions you're going to have to make here. The best thing to do is go ahead and consult your operator's manual for your particular engine. The way you can identify your ballpark ounces of oil you're going to need to add, and of course the type of viscosity is required for your engine. Now, most of ours require a 30 weight or SAE 30 engine oil. Now, depending on the temperature range you're running in, if you're running below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to need to switch over to a 5W30, or anything above 40 degrees all the way up through 110 requires SAE 30. So we're going to go ahead and put 30 weight in this because this is a riding lawnmower application. Now, there are a couple different bottle sizes Briggs Stratton offers here. There's a 48 ounce version here, which works well for a lot of our V-twins for getting it real close to maximum capacity. And then there's also a smaller 18 ounce bottle, which works well for our walk behind lawnmower applications. Most times you can actually just place this whole bottle in and you're going to be right at the full mark on the dipstick. So we'll go ahead and add the oil, and then I'll show you how to check it on the dipstick. Okay, so now that we added the appropriate amount of oil ounces that the operator's manual had specified, we'll insert your dipstick and then pull it out and take a look at where we're at on the dipstick level. Now there are a full and add line as well as a crosshatch which indicates a safe operation range. We are exactly at the full mark here by adding our specified oil ounce per the operator's manual. Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about here is fuel system maintenance. Now, there isn't a lot of things you can do to your fuel system here for upgrades or maintenance like our air filters or oil filters, that sort of thing. The only thing you really can do is keep fresh, regular unleaded gasoline in it and keep it current, because it does change frequently throughout the seasons, depending on where you're located. And of course, using some sort of fuel treatment like our Briggs Stratton Advanced Formula fuel treatment here. This will go a long ways to help protect the fuel system in case, especially if the unit has to see any prolonged storage periods. And of course, coats everything with a nice protective film to keep ethanol from creating a problem with any components in your fuel system. This stuff's pretty easy to measure out. It's got graduation marks on the side of it. You use about a ½ ounce to treat every 2.5 gallons. So you don't use a lot of it, you use it sparingly, and it goes a long ways to make your fuel system live up to the expectation that you have for it, and your equipment will always start and perform for you when you expect it to.